Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present this evening, Councilors Boschman, myself, Councilor D'Itali, President Zarella, and Councilor Squalia. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to identify themselves for the record now, stating your name and city of residence. Seeing none. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed into silent mode. Public comment. I invite anybody in the audience who wishes to speak for not more than 2 minutes on any item on the agenda. Seeing as we only have department heads here, there is no public comment and nothing on submitted in advance. And with that, we will move on to the agenda. 17123, in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $19,758 to be charged against available funds and credited to employee benefits, Chapter 41 Police. And I have a letter here from Ann Cervantes, Treasurer. This is to cover the medical costs for the police injured on duty for the remainder of the year.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
On the motion,
Councilor Squalia.
this 19,758, that closes out the free cash for the year.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
I'll still second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve 17123. If there are no objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, passes. 17223, order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $26,200 to be transferred from election and registration, personal services, election workers, and credited to the following accounts: City Council expenses, $11,200; City Clerk expenses, $2,000; election and registration expenses, $13,000. And in Clerk Bellata's absence, I will read the letter from her, dated May 25th. In anticipation of the end of the fiscal year, I have been reviewing my accounts and find that there are several transfers from within required to cover expenses for the remainder of the year. I am therefore asking that $11,200 be transferred to City Hall expenses, $2,000 to City Clerk expenses, and $13,000 to elections and registration expenses.
I make a motion we accept.
Second.
On the motion,
One second, Councilors, just let me finish one thing on the letter that's important. The $26,200 that she's moving from those three accounts is going to be going to election registration, personal services, and election workers, and those funds are available. I'm sorry, the $26,200 that's being transferred out of election and registration are available because of reimbursements that the city has received from the state for early voting costs.
Well, she get a question anyway.
Council Squalia?
so we should amend the agenda. It says City Council expenses. Should we amend that to say City Hall expenses?
I think it is City Council expenses. I imagine it's probably advertisement of ordinances and so forth.
Oh, okay,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
because the letter says City Hall expenses.
The mayor's letter to Auditor Brooks calls for the City Council expenses. So and the order itself says City Council expenses, so I don't know why the letter says City Hall expenses. I would have to believe that it's City Council because the jurisdiction of City Council is within the clerk's area of expertise, whereas she has nothing to do with City Hall expenses.
That makes more sense.
Mr. Karlstad and facilities. So I think that might just be a typo on her part.
Okay.
I still make my motion that we
Second.
accept.
Motion made and seconded to approve the budgetary transfer of 172-2023. If there's no discussion, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, passes. 17323, Order that the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts earmark in the approximate amount of $25,000 for the purpose of said earmark, which is to support the renovation and expansion of the Fitchburg Police Department Dispatch Center. Chief Martineau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to go on record thanking Representative Kuchmarek for his tireless advocacy for the Fitchburg Police Department down at the State House. He put in for this earmark to help support our renovation efforts at the Fitchburg Police Department, which came at a great time because we were seeking alternative design studies through our architect, and this came at a perfect time where I didn't have to approach the mayor for funds at this late in the fiscal season. So through this $25,000, it's given me the opportunity to do an alternative design study with Context, our architect firm. In addition to that, we're able to purchase some much-needed equipment in the existing dispatch room. So this $25,000 really came at a fabulous time for our agency. And once again, Rep. Kuchmarek has been a strong supporter of our renovation efforts there, and he continues to advocate for the police department. So I'm very grateful for that.
Chief, refresh my memory, how much did we appropriate for the design or the architect?
You initially appropriated $50,000 that went to the company called Context. They're our architectural design firm. Prior to that, you appropriated approximately $180 for the OPM services through Colliers. Right. So Colliers has been overseeing it since that point. We did a first initial design with Context. We had a meeting with our team in the mayor's office, and we decided to look at an alternative design study which resembles what the Fitchburg Police Department was first meant to look like back in 1984. We went back to the original design, thus the need for an alternative design study. The alternative design study came up to $16,000. And like I said, it came at a perfect time.
Are we keeping that other design that we paid for? Are we still considering that?
That initial design, the bulk of that work was money well spent. They did an overview of the electric system, the heating system. They did basically a physical check of the police department, and then they designed what we were trying to accomplish in the report writing room, the dispatch room, the records bureau. Mm-hmm. So the initial $50,000, a majority of that went towards the structural design to see what we had in place and how we could expand and improve upon it. This alternative design, without getting too much in it, we're going now forward instead of backwards. The original design had almost a parking deck in front of the building, which would make sense when you're looking at the topography of the Fitchburg Police Department. So we're moving in that direction now, and hopefully I'll be able to report back to the council sometime next year during the fiscal year. And like I said, the remainder of this money is going towards some much-needed equipment in there for our current dispatches.
Council Boschman?
We talked, remember I showed you that piece of paper from the Sentinel Enterprise?
You did, yeah.
Because I really don't want to invest a lot of money if we're planning on trying to go regional. You talked about going regional.
Yep.
So I don't want to, we spend $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 on the police station, then all of a sudden you say, oh, let's go regional, it's better for us. And we just invested $100,000. We just wasted.
Yep. We like I told you in previous meetings, Council, we've never dismissed at least exploring that opportunity, but I've explained to you off record why we continue to do what we do. Please keep in mind that this architectural design with Context expands much greater than just the dispatch center. We're talking about making the police department a more welcoming, friendly place for people with disabilities, bringing the records department downstairs, improving a building that's, approaching 40 years old. So the dispatch center is just a small portion of what we're trying to accomplish in the renovations of the police department. So I don't see this money as ill spent.
Go ahead. But I really thought when we gave you the design, it was because we were headed towards dealing more of a mental health issue, and you wanted to bring on more people. So you wanted to bring in more people for the mental health side of it. So that's why you had to expand. That's what I always thought. That's not so now?
It was never so. The expansion was a much-needed greater space for our officers when they're doing reports, renovating the first floor of our department that's been seen 3 different floods with raw sewage, just really trying to bring some level of satisfaction back to that building. So there's multiple areas. My initial goal, my primary goal, was to make the police department more accessible to those with disabilities. That was the original, and it still remains my number one focus, to make the police department accessible to people that have some type of disability. And this alternative design, creating a parking structure in front of the police department, will literally get someone to our front door who can get a police report, that can speak to a police officer from point A to point B without any interference. So that continues to be my number one priority when we talk about renovations to the police department. First and foremost is making it accessible to folks. And then we're talking dispatch, we're talking about, men's locker room, report writing area. That it's a large project.
What about when you talked to us one time in front of the council, what about the mental health issue? I keep on remembering the mental health, because you said a lot of our problems in the city are mental health problems, and we were bringing on different people to come here.
That's part of it, Counselor. I have a full-time clinician now on staff that works in the police department. She's working out of a portable office. Please keep in mind, when the police department was built 40 years ago, there was, I believe, where we were a total complement of 70 employees. There's over 100 employees in that building today. So we've outgrown it. And part of the conversation was I need a permanent fixture, a permanent office for my clinical support folks. I have clinicians, I have domestic violence advocates, I have a cadre of civilians augmenting the work that my officers do each and every day. So the project isn't just about one little item here or there. It still remains a priority to make it accessible, but there's many little different factors that, quite frankly, are 40 years overdue.
All right. I'll make a motion, we accept it. Yours,
Second.
yours.
Motion made and seconded to accept 17323. There are no objections. It is approved.
Thank you.
Under unanimous consent. Thank you. 17423, order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $124,399.11 for reserve for appropriation PEG access and credited to information technology franchise fee for the purpose of paying FATV for franchise fees received during the second quarter of 2023. This is the quarterly tranche of funds from Comcast and Verizon to local access television in the city.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept. If there are no objections, it is accepted. 17523, order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $135,000 to be transferred from Parks Personal Services Department Head, $85,000, and Labor, $50,000, and credited to Parks Capital Departmental Equipment, $120,000, and Parks Expenses, Gas and Oil, $15,000. We have Commissioner Erickson here. Commissioner, do you want me to read your letter, or do you want to explain it?
Whatever is easiest for you. If you read it, that explains everything, so I can answer questions after that.
Okay,
if
so
you'd like.
the first transfers will, so the $85,000 transfer from Parks Personal Services Department Head. DPW received an appropriation in September of 2022 to hire a superintendent of parks. After much consideration, it was determined that the Parks and Recreation divisions would benefit from being restructured, with duties and responsibilities of the superintendent of parks being absorbed by the existing positions of Recreation Director and Recreation Assistant. We are currently in the process of restructuring the Parks and Recreation divisions accordingly and plan to utilize the funds set aside for the superintendent of parks for this purpose in FY24. These same funds are available in the FY23 budget, as we did not hire a superintendent of parks. the $50,000 transfer from Parks Personal Services Labor. Funds are available due to a vacancy in the Parks Division. We are in the process of filling the vacancy with an internal transfer from the Streets Division, but the funds have remained unspent for the majority of the fiscal year. Those are the explanations on why they're leaving those accounts. The explanations on where they're going. Transferring those funds to $120,000 to Parks Equipment, departmental equipment. $35,000 will be used to purchase an enclosed trailer for equipment. This trailer will allow our parks crews to leave small equipment such as mowers in the trailer at the DPW yard and not require them to be loaded each morning and unloaded each night. We currently do not own an enclosed trailer for parks equipment. $85,000 will be used to purchase a 1-ton pickup truck. This truck will replace one of the 2011 Chevy Silverado 1-tons in the Parks Division. Our current Parks 1-tons have suffered frequent breakdowns and are becoming unsafe to operate. This will allow us to replace one of the 2 1-tons in the Parks Division. And $15,000 for gas and oil is simply needed to close the account out for over expenditure of funds, I would assume, because of the price of gas.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
rising. Council Boschman.
Mr. Commissioner, you want a new 1-ton truck for the park. You're going to put a plow on it too?
Yes, it'll have a plow, for sure.
Okay, and we're going to have a plow on it. And then you got, according to the other thing, you want another 2 more for the DPW too?
Right, that'll be
Should that be
for-
a total of 4?
It'll be 3 total, 1 for parks and 2 for DPW streets.
How about the one we gave you prior, when we gave you for the front end loader?
So we've found one on a lot. I forget exactly who the vendor is. That's what I'm trying to think of in my mind. And I believe Courtney and Gary are working on getting a PO cut so that we can get it delivered to the yard. So that should be here before too long. We were hoping to have it for DPW Day today, but it just didn't work out time-wise.
I don't want to offend anybody. I don't mind investing money in the DPW, but I'm just going to ask that the employees take care of them, treat them like it's their own. I'm not saying they don't, but, you know, when it's not your own, sometimes some people, not all, you got to phrase this right for politics, they don't care, so.
Right.
I don't.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm trying to instill on my employees right now is that if you're given a piece of equipment, you should treat it as your own personal vehicle. And if you do that, I'm not going to have any problems, and you're not going to have any problems. Our employees aren't going to have any problems. They need to take care of the equipment. I think some do a better job with that than others. There's certainly people that don't pay attention, they don't care, and those are employees we're working with. The ones that are in question in the Parks Division, they're 2011s, so they're over 10 years old. I would say that's the equivalent of 20 or 30 years using a personal vehicle, just because of how heavily they're abused throughout the year. During the summertime, they're overloaded with bark mulch, loam, etc. During the wintertime, they're overloaded with plows, salt, sand, etc. So they see some abuse day in and day out. And anytime that those trucks go down, then we're searching for vehicles. So it is imperative that we cycle new vehicles into the fleet on occasion. And one thing I did bring with me, I should have handed this out before we started talking, it's our auto fleet schedule, so you can see the vehicles that we do have, what division they belong to, and the year that they were manufactured.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind if I say one more thing. I just want to say, Nick, the guy that takes care of Coolidge Park, the guy that's a worker down there in the park, he does an excellent job, and he works very good. I don't usually tell him because I don't want him to get a big head, but he works, because I walk down there and I see, I'm down there every morning at 5:30. He starts around 6:30, and he's working. He's not just in the truck. He's actually working, cutting grass and that. I was really impressed.
Do you know who that is exactly? We've got four parks guys. Maybe it's James. James is the working foreman.
It might be. I don't know. I don't want to tell you I don't know. But he does a good job. I see him working, and I was really impressed. And the people that I work with were really impressed that he's actually working. Anyway, so I just wanted to show that out because there are people.
Thank you for the compliment, and I'll pass it on to the guys for sure.
All right, you're welcome.
We do have one vacancy in Parks right now, and we're currently working on an internal transfer from someone that's in streets that wants to work in Parks. We have him working in the Parks now anyways. He just paid out of a separate account, so we want to make it official. And then, we're looking forward to being fully staffed once he comes on board.
Okay, I want to say thank you very much.
Move to approve 175-23.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve 175-23. If there are no objections, it's approved. 176-23, order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $270,000 to be transferred from the following accounts. DPW Admin PS Inspector, $40,000. DPW Admin PS Assistant City Engineer, $35,000. Clerical, $10,000. Labor, $155,000. Summer Help, $30,000. Capital Equipment, $170,000. Oh, and credit to the following accounts. Capital Equipment, $170,000. Gas and Oil, $35,000. Motor Vehicle Repairs, $35,000. And Pothole Repairs, $30,000. And letter states as follows: the $40,000 from Engineering, Administration, Personal Services, Inspector. Funds are available as the position has been vacant since October of 2022, when the DPW Inspector was promoted to Assistant City Engineer. $35,000 is available as the position was vacant for 4 months at the beginning of the fiscal year, the Assistant City Engineer position. $10,000 clerical funds are available as the position was vacant for 4 months at the beginning of the fiscal year. $155,000 in labor funds are available due to several vacancies in the Streets Division for various lengths of time during the fiscal year. And $30,000 Streets Personal Services Summer Help funds are available as there were no summer help applicants last summer. In 2022, the summer help positions are still posted and we are accepting applications. We hope to hire 4 seasonal help for the Streets Division. And the transfers are going to $170,000 for DPW capital equipment. DPW would like to use the funds to replace 2 2011 Chevy Silverado 1-ton pickup trucks that are in poor condition. $35,000 for gas and oil needed to balance the budget. We accounted for an increase in fuel prices when we wrote the FY23 request. However, the price of diesel, along with the long duration winter snowstorms, have caused our actual expenses for fuel to exceed our budget. $35,000 for repairs. Funds are needed to balance the budget for motor vehicle repairs. In FY23, we had performed unexpected and necessary repairs to the grader, which cost $54,000. The grader is a key piece of equipment that is used to scrape unpaved roads of snow and ice in winter months and is used as part of the road paving process during construction season. And $30,000 for pothole repair supplies. Funds are needed to balance the budget for pothole repair supplies as a result of the rising costs of asphalt, as well as the volume of potholes filled during the DPW. DPW has at least one dedicated pothole crew out every regular shift filling potholes. Council Boschman.
One question, I'll be fast. On the oil and gas, would you think it'd be better for us to put a storage tank down there where we buy a large quantity and have it sit there so that all departments can go in and tap in instead of having the police department and the wastewater and these people and that people? We have a big tank.
So we used to do that. DPW had underground gas tanks, and over time they leaked, and that caused an issue. We had to remediate the soils, and now there's an activity use limitation on the 301 Broad Street facility. So it's one of those things, if we stay on top of maintenance, it might provide some cost savings. But one of the other things that we started to deal with was employees taking advantage of having gas on site. And it's difficult to monitor those pumps 24/7 and make sure that no one is taking gas and putting it in their personal vehicles or overusing some of their privileges. So the way we have it set up right now, we buy gas with a third-party system called WEX. That's the name of the company. We can keep track of all the gas purchases. Each individual is assigned a card, and all the usage is tied to that card, so it allows us to monitor who's using what and when. We've actually used that, unfortunately, for disciplinary purposes very recently. So I would suggest keeping the current system that we have instead of investing in gas tanks having to worry about the operation and maintenance, having to worry about theft, et cetera.
All right, I make a motion, we accept.
Second.
All right, can you wait 1 second on that?
I can do that, anything for the chair.
Thank you. Can we get a, I don't know if quarterly, but your department is heavily, has got a real microscope on in terms of staffing. And we regularly and routinely hear about this not getting done, this not getting done. A lot of stuff is getting done, but a lot of stuff is not. And we have to ensure that the public understands that it's not a budget issue, it's a staffing gap. Because there are more unfilled positions in your department than we would like, even in water and wastewater. And so with the recent contract negotiations and the impacts on that and the methodology behind why that contract was agreed to and why we need to support it, it was to incentivize more probability of hiring people and keeping them on staff. There was a sheet that Courtney gave me 2 years ago that had each division with the number of funded positions versus how many of those were vacant at the current time. If we could get some kind of a update periodically on where we stand with staffing,
Sure.
especially after this contract that we funded.
So to give you a little bit of an update right
yeah.
now, so over the past 3 years, the Water Division has been operating with a skeleton crew. They've had essentially half staff for almost 3 years, which is crazy, well below the Mass DEP required staffing levels. I'm happy to report that after that contract was negotiated and settled, we now have only one vacancy in the Water Division. So we've got nearly a full staff now, which is really impressive.
That's good.
On the wastewater side, we're similarly well-staffed. Right now, we're hurting in the admin and engineering area. The engineers are part of the famous union, which didn't receive quite as much of a change, a bump, as compared to, say, the local 170 union. But I don't think necessarily the pays are the issue with that group of positions that are vacant right now. So we're working to fill those right now. Part of it is just the difference between private sector pay and municipal sector pay.
Is it also qualifications? Are we not getting qualified? I mean,
a lot of it's qualifications
Yeah.
based. I mean, there's a shortage of engineers kind of across the country right now. The private consulting world pays a heck of a lot better than the municipal sector. The benefits in the municipal sector aren't quite as good as they used to be. You know, retirement packages are different. It's a different game than it was, 10, 15 years ago even. So I can provide you with a similar quarterly
like
update.
cemetery, parks, streets, admin.
So just to kind of round that out, so currently vacant, we have junior engineer, engineering inspector. We have a working foreman position in the streets division that's open. We have a heavy special position in streets division due to a resignation within the past month. We've got a heavy special in the streets division that we need to backfill because we promoted from within to working foreman position. And then we've got one heavy special vacancy that doesn't have a reason other than we're working on filling it right now. We have a head motor equipment repairman position that's been vacant. We recently had an injury within the repair shop, one of the employees there. He was one of 2 internal candidates, so we're waiting to fill that position until he's back full-time, to be fair. And then we've got a few soon-to-be vacant positions with some employees that are either on their way out or, like I mentioned, one streets individual is transferring over to parks.
Is that that's the superintendent of streets and the general?
Correct.
Foreman?
2 retirements coming up. General foreman, superintendent of streets.
Gary and Craig?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cemetery's fully staffed. Like I said, Parks has that one outstanding internal transfer, then they'll be fully staffed. Water's in good shape, wastewater's in good shape. But I'm happy to come back,
It'd be nice to get a periodic update every couple of months or every 3 months, just to, make sure that we're aware of the staffing gaps. Because it's important information just to put the proper context behind some things that are taking longer than normal to get finished. And I know engineering is a particular issue, certainly when it comes to like paving and sewer separation projects getting started. So it needs a lot of upfront engineering and design work and planning, and
Right.
That's what you used to do before you were promoted to commissioner. So
Yeah,
those
that's what I-
positions are essential too.
That's what I still do now to help out engineering until we get those positions filled. But
Okay.
absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that you understand. Don't be afraid to tell us, hey, we don't have enough people for our areas. Don't say, we have enough, and all of a sudden, we don't have enough. Don't be afraid to say, we could use 4 or 5 more guys. You know what I mean?
Counsel,
I know we're at.
Commissioner
I know
Anderson has never been afraid of, none of the department heads have ever been shy of telling us they're short.
But anyway, I know
you know.
Calvin says we gotta watch our pennies, and I'm
No, I
watching
know,
our pennies.
but actually, not to keep this going, but if you recall a year ago, I think someone asked the question of him, what could you use? What do you need? And he said, I could use a whole nother streets crew. And we asked you, what is that? So foreman and three laborers, so 4 guys?
Yeah.
He didn't want to push his luck to
Well, I
Mr.
mean,
Chair.
and so we ended up funding through a supplemental budget request, beginning of this last fiscal year. I think it was a general foreman and a working foreman and 2 laborers.
Correct, yeah.
And then the 4th position was the parks and playground superintendent. We opted for that instead. But he got 75% of what he said he wanted. So it's not whole, but so he's told us, and we've acted in certain instances. The mayor has, we have, but I'm sure if you ask every department, what can you use? I'm sure the chief would like 15 more officers beyond what he's got. No? Okay. We're holding you to that head shake. All right. No. All right. So, yes. So they've been upfront with us about the staffing needs, but what I've always tried to highlight, because, I'm looking out for the council too. It's not like if you have a budget that funds 20 positions and you only have 10 on staff, well, it's a staffing issue. It's not a budget issue. And I would argue you got to fill those 10 positions, see how you're doing with the 20 you've got on staff, and then have a better assessment of what you really need. I don't know if you can really assess what you need unless you fill all your positions first.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I mean,
It
let's
does
get all
help.
those positions filled. Then you can see, okay, what am I not getting accomplished here with a full staff? And that's...
Having a full staff does help us get a lot more done. I mean, the difference of 2 or 3 people is a full crew, and it means us being able to pave versus not being able to pave some days, so.
Thank you.
I make a motion, we accept.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to accept 17623. If there are no objections, it's accepted. 17723, you're hereby is appropriated the sum of $4,040.70 to be charged against reserve for appropriation, TNC per ride assessment, and credited to DPW capital expenses street repair for the purpose of road paving. And, here. Per statute, the Transportation Network TNC Division of the Department of Public Utilities collects 20 cents per ride assessment on all TNC rides originating in Massachusetts. Each year, half of the per ride assessment is dispersed to each municipality proportionally based on the number of rides originating in that municipality. These funds must be used to address the impact of transportation network services on municipal roads, bridges, and other transportation infrastructure, or in any other public purpose substantially related to the operation and transportation network services in the city or town. In FY22, the city received $4,040.70, which brings the total received since 2018 to $27,241 from this ride share assessment program. DPW would like to use the funding received in FY22 towards repaving a city street this construction season. These funds will be used in conjunction with Chapter 90 and other available funds for road repairs. And I would just add a boilerplate that $4,000 will get you 7 feet
About this much
Yeah,
pavement,
okay.
right? But every little bit does help.
Yes.
So we do appreciate it, and we'll use it
Certainly,
towards
but-
paving.
Yeah.
Move to
Council
approve
motion.
177. Oh,
Yeah.
Council,
I don't know if I'm going to,
do you withdraw, Council?
what?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I don't know if I'm going to accept this as for road paving. I would prefer this to go for sidewalk repairs. The sidewalks are deplorable. As a matter of fact, the other day I was walking, well, it was yesterday, I was coming into City Hall just before the new part. There's bricks, there's a couple bricks missing right as you're coming into City Hall. A big hole right there.
Okay.
Somebody can get hurt, especially at nighttime. They don't see if they're paying attention to what's in front of them or what's in back of them.
Is that right out there?
Right out there.
Okay.
There's a hole. You know, $4,000 is, like you said, it's very little where, and you know it, and I know it, and the vast majority of our complaints are the roads and sidewalks. Sidewalks are deplorable. I know it's not your fault, and I'm not blaming you or the DPW. It's all of our faults. Even the homeowners, because they should be knocking down the weeds on their sidewalks, but they don't. So I don't know if I'm going to support that going into paving. I prefer it to go to sidewalk repair. I think you can get done a little bit more on the sidewalks than you can do on paving.
I'd be happy to take it for sidewalks as well, if that is the preference of the council, because both budgets get used up during the year, and I can certainly use it for sidewalks instead.
I make a motion that, oh, okay, never mind that.
Well, one second, Councilor, just, don't the street repair and the sidewalks kind of go hand in hand?
They're in the same org, I believe, so
Like-
if one account overruns and another underruns, they kind of balance each other
Sure,
out.
but what I'm talking about, Commissioner, is like on Clarendon Street, for example. You're not only doing the street, you're doing new sidewalks.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
when we appropriated the funds, it was for both.
Right, industrial road's the same. We're doing that
Right.
asphalt sidewalk on
Right.
the east side of industrial too. So if it goes towards that, it is technically being used for sidewalks and/or paving. You're correct.
Okay. Councilor Zarella?
I just wanted to say I agree the sidewalks need work too. There's also a couple bricks missing over by the library, stuff like that. But I'm inclined to let the commissioner tell us which line item he most needs the money in. And unless we think it's an inappropriate thing to spend money on, which I don't think any of us think, I think we go with that. None of us are experts in DPW operations.
Paving and potholes are the number one complaint, but sidewalks is a close second. So I will make sure both of those reports of the bricks missing are addressed, though.
The auditor wants to talk.
Yes.
I was just going to say that the council can reduce, but it can't add. So the council does not have the ability to switch it from street repairs to sidewalk maintenance,
Oh, we can't?
because the mayor has recommended street repairs.
You know, pick either one. I mean,
Right? If council was serious about sidewalk repairs, you'd have to reject it and ask the mayor to resubmit.
Move to approve 177-23.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve 17723. Are there any objections?
No, I guess not.
Okay. If there are no objections, we'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none. Last item on the agenda, 17823. Order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Mass Department of Environmental Protection Asset Management Grant Program in the approximate amount of $150,000 for the purpose of said grant, which is to begin the development of a GIS-based asset management program for stormwater infrastructure. Earlier this year, the city was notified that it was awarded a grant in the amount of $150,000 to begin the development of a geographic information system-based asset management program for its stormwater infrastructure. The DPW will use the grant funds to continue the asset management efforts in water, wastewater, and stormwater. The goals for this project include improve the current stormwater system mapping in GIS, including verifying inventory information, expanding the inventory to include previously undocumented assets, improving GIS feature connectivity, and expanding the depth of information and attributes assigned to assets. Perform a desktop condition and risk assessment of the stormwater pipeline system. Develop a capital improvement plan for stormwater pipelines to ensure that proper investments are made to repair or replace these assets, and prioritize areas for detailed CCTV inspections. As a result of this project, the city will be able to increase the flexibility of city staff to access stormwater system information via GIS and improve the accuracy and completeness of existing data. The city will also be able to prioritize its stormwater pipeline assets based on asset condition and consequence of failure, and improve its ability to make data-driven capital planning decisions regarding how to best allocate limited funds for asset rehabilitation and replacement. The DPW has committed to provide both a cash match of $87,402 and in-kind services valued at $12,600. I respectfully request that the mayor and the city council accept the grant to complete the scope of work identified in the attached grant agreement. That's from the commissioner.
So this grant program, as Councilor Dinatelli said, is through the Mass DEP's Asset Management Grant Program, which is the Clean Water and Drinking Water Trust. That's what funds those this program, depending on if it's stormwater, water, or wastewater. So we've begun doing this work with the MS4 program requirements for our MS4 permit. We've mapped out, I'd say, 75 to 80% of our system. We've digitized most of our stormwater plans that we have, our record plans. So that's what kind of built the foundation for the next step of work, and that's developing an actual asset management program using that GIS data that we've already developed. So asset management not only means mapping out your system, but understanding the condition of the system, the consequence of failure, the likelihood of failure, the criticality of failure. So that's the next step that we're looking to take with this data that we've spent so much time gathering because of the MS4 program requirements. We want to take it to that next step and help us manage that asset so that we can get the most out of our dollars, our funds.
Councilor Squalia.
So the total value of this GIS system is $250,000?
Right, if you include the cash match plus the in-kind services.
Are we planning to contract these services out, or largely the expenses our own personnel and software?
So the in-kind services valued at $12,600 will be our personnel, our engineers assisting with some of the GIS work. We plan to contract out the remainder of work to our stormwater consultant. It's a company called Arcadis. They do, I'd say, 95% of our stormwater work in the city.
And the plan is to have this complete by December 2023? Correct.
As we get closer to that deadline, we've been successful working with Mass DEP in the past to obtain extensions. So if we've run into that situation, we'll reach out to them and try to go that route. But a lot of it is desktop work. A lot of it, Arcadis is ready to complete as soon as we get this approved and sign their notice to proceed on the proposal that I have from them.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. If there are no objections, it is approved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any objections? We are adjourned.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.